Time to fuel your business success. Welcome to Harmonious at Lunch. We're bringing you bite-sized advice and expert conversations to drive clarity and growth 5 days a week. Make sure you join our Facebook group at humanoff.com/lunch, where listeners like you and our guests hang out so we can find harmony in business together. If you're building a business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
How do you grow your business and manage all the different parts at one time? We're going to find out today. We're talking to an experienced business owner and a consultant as well. And we're going to hear how all the pieces need to play together in order to grow an effective business. Brandon Pflieger, welcome to the show. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Brandon.
We joked before recording, it's the Brandon and Brandon show. And I know if you're listening, you've had like way too many of these recently. So I promise I will do a better job of filtering out the hosts of this show, because we all know we need less of me and more of the guests. But anyway, this is a cool episode. So Brandon, you have a cool background. You started a business, or actually you had a business, you jumped into franchising, now you're consulting. You kind of been all over the map in different industries, if you will, but you've had success in all of them, which means you definitely have a formula, or at least some sort of an idea of what you're doing in business. So take me back to where you started your business journey and the things you started to identify as the secrets to success, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, going back way back when, Brandon, I was working in a marketing firm. I was the CEO of that marketing firm, and our main niche was working with small business owners, just like I am now, right? Whether it was in fitness or pest control or home services, whatever it was, we were helping them grow their business, right? And we found so many people just didn't understand how to market and really target properly. So that's where I originally was, and I think I was telling you before the show started, I just kind of got stale. I wanted to get back to fitness, where I knew I could help people change their lives and live longer, right? Live healthier, be happier. So that's originally kind of the transition from the marketing firm to running one of our more successful franchises under Rockbox Fitness. And then I wanted to start helping other business owners once I figured out that formula for myself. And how to grow something, go to market, launch, be successful, profit almost immediately. I wanted to help other people do that. So that's where Capital Growth Partners came. And that's where kind of the blueprint was formed.
Yeah. For those of you listening to, you may recognize when Brandon said Rockbox Fitness. We had the CEO of Rockbox, Roger Martin, on the show. I want to say 150, maybe 200 episodes ago. Roger was fantastic and kind of shared his path of growing Rockbox and expanding that organization. I'm curious to hear your journey though, because when you say, it got stale, the marketing got stale, and then you jumped into Rockbox, you're within a system, within an organization that has a system, right? And Roger shared that. So we know it's a proven blueprint of success, but franchising is, I think, unique in that you have to put your own flavor on it. So what was that startup journey for you, launching a new location in that brand and really driving success in your particular organization?
Yeah, great question. I think Roger probably already said this, but I think even within franchising, even with a system, the reality is you have to follow the system, right?
Yeah.
And so we see that a lot. I work with a lot of other franchisees, not just in Rockbox, but other brands. And the most important thing that they need to do is follow the process that's proven, right? And you'd be surprised how often business owners try to go in there and kind of create their own systems and processes, or frankly, they just throw them out the window and just do whatever they want. And so, to your point, that's really important. Now, adding your own flavor, that I think is important in the fact that you have to be present in your business. I hear a lot in the franchising world of, hey, it's turnkey. You're going to get in there, you're going to make a ton of money, man, and you're just going to sit on a beach and collect checks, right? And unfortunately, that's not how it works. And if someone's selling you that, unfortunately, they're selling you something that doesn't exist. And so, being present in your business, creating those systems and processes. One thing I always tell anybody that's starting a business, whether it's a franchise or just your own brand, people are important. They're probably the most important. They're the number one thing on my blueprint to either turning around a failing business or starting one, is getting the right people on the bus in order to make sure that your business is successful long term.
Yeah, I actually turned my last business into a franchise, and I partnered with a company that was I can see on this side of that experience, basically the second coming of Satan. And they were awful, awful human beings. They will remain nameless for their own protection on this show. I canceled the contract with them though, because that's what they were selling. They were selling the sipping margaritas on a beach, and
Yeah, man.
$1 million profit your first year. And I was like, dude, if I had that, first of all, I wouldn't be turning this into a franchise. So we're not selling BS here. We need to talk about reality. And it's just true. But I'm glad you brought that up, because you have to be present in your business. You have to follow the system, and nothing is the silver bullet to success and millions of dollars of profit. If it was, everybody would be doing it, first of all. So
Exactly. Everybody be an entrepreneur, right?
yeah, right. Like let's use a little bit of common sense here. But people, I can't agree with you more on the people side. I mean, that's what we're all about at Human Op, right? Is understanding the human beings and really maximizing their potential within an organization. Starting a business and hiring human beings has got to be one of the hardest things that there is in the business world, right? Because it's a new business. You don't really know what's going to happen. You can't foresee that, even within a franchise, because all of them are unique. And in a lot of cases, you probably don't have a ton of capital to hire those people. So there's not a lot of room for error. What did you do? Now, you had experience of running another business. I get that. But what did you do in the beginning to attract, hire, and retain the right people?
Yeah, I think we'll just talk, the model that I started, right, which is a fitness business. And
Mhm.
I always like to work backwards. So, what is my product? So, in our case, it was classes, right? We're going to, run a class, and someone has to go into that class and like it in order to want to sign up. So, you can kind of, go backwards in a lot of different businesses to do that. If you're running a coffee shop, your coffee has to be good. If it's not, you're probably not going to get customers, right? So, the first point for me was finding really good instructors that I knew would just run the business for me and bring in people that would want to stay, right? I think the second part of what I did is really dig into a general manager. Your general manager, especially in I would argue in any business, is the most important aspect of what you're doing, right? Because they're your eyes when you're not there. If you do want to be a business owner, that's not exactly there all the time, meaning you're not an operator, you're more of an oversight committee. You got to have someone that you trust in there. And so, for example, for me, and I'm very transparent about where we screwed up a little bit when we first opened, was actually on the people side. We had a great go-to-market strategy. I mentioned I was a marketing executive, so I kind of knew the deal behind digital advertising, which is its own monster. But we did great there. I had somebody that just wasn't in the right seat. I won't use her name, obviously, but she was just not very accountable. I use the phrase, she just had a loose relationship with the truth towards the end there. And so we ended up parting
That's
ways with her
not a
very
good thing to say
quickly.
about somebody.
No, not a good thing in business in general. And so we ended up parting ways with her very, very quickly. And I can't stress enough to anybody listening is that if you've got someone that in your gut isn't following your processes, or you think they might not be telling you the truth, or you have evidence that they're just not in the right seat, don't wait. Go fast. I think there's that phrase, hire fast, fire fast, and I couldn't agree with that more. Right? I mean, you want to get people in quickly, but at the end of the day, if they're not the right fit, you got to get them out of there. And so that's what we did. I think the people side of things, the most important thing to look for is your values. Right? Do they have integrity? Are they going to do what they say they're going to do? The other stuff you can help figure out. That's why you're there. That's why you're the business owner, to help them learn. You mentioned compensation, right? That is a tough challenge for a lot of business owners. So I think you got to figure out what motivates somebody. It's not always money. In fact, I found that half the time, maybe even more than that, it's not about money. It's about how they feel when they walk into your business every day, and how they feel about your relationship. So, my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen time and time again that money it's usually somewhere between third and fifth on the list of importance.
Yeah.
Having the ability to grow within the role and having or feeling valued are usually the most important, and they kind of switch depending on the people and the company. But there's some of the biggest companies in the world have validated that Disney pays in the on average 50th percentile of their industry. Whatever industry they're in,
Yeah.
they're about middle of the road. And you would think like, oh, massive company Disney, they're paying top dollar. Not even close. People are so bought into the values and the mission and the vision of Disney that they just want to work there. And
Yeah.
they'll take effectively a pay cut to do it. So you are spot on. One of the things that I also really agree with is the hiring for values. And I'm curious how you do that in an interview or through a job trial process, whatever it is? What does that look like to really isolate someone's values, and understand that they're not just giving you lip service and saying, I value integrity? Like, everybody could say that, but how do you really solicit
Yeah.
someone's values from them?
I think the biggest thing from an interview perspective, because look, there are people out there that are really good interviewers, and they
Mhm.
can trick you. And frankly, that's what happened to me, right? And the scenario I was just giving you. And so,
Yeah.
what I've learned from that is not to go in with, 15 questions you're going to ask everybody. If you've ever worked for a really large corporation, they've got all these HR processes and people that tell you these are the exact questions you have to ask. You can't riff, you can't do anything else. You just got to go there. And maybe that's the world of big business, $100 million companies. But I would say to any small business owner out there, you really need to just have a conversation with the person. You need to ask them for examples. You need to ask them for stories that clarify what they're saying, right? So for me, one of my biggest values is integrity. That can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. And so I ask them specifically, what does integrity mean to you? And then give me an example of one time where you had a tough decision and this value really kind of resonated with what you decided to do. So that's a big one for me. For example, if someone were to ask me that, I would, talk about the pandemic and talk about, some of the hard decisions we had to make running that big marketing company. And we decided not to part ways with anybody. We decided to not lay anyone off, but there were some other tough decisions, that everybody had to get around. For example, we cut everyone across the board, including my compensation. And so those are the kind of examples that I'm looking for when I'm asking questions to somebody. And, if they sit there and they can't think of one, you probably know that it's lip service, right? They're not really about that. They're just telling you they are.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way to kind of cut through the noise, so to speak. So kind of looking at your journey then, and then transitioning into consulting, how long was it between starting the Rockbox and then jumping into consulting alongside of that?
Yeah, well, our location has been open just over about 18 months now. And so, like I mentioned, I think it's really important at minimum in the first 6 months to be extremely focused on what it is that you're doing. I found in consulting, actually, I found that a lot of people have a lot of different balls in the air and they're not focused on one thing. So for me, I was all in the first 6 months. Really wanted to make sure, back to the conversation of that GM that just didn't work out, that I was present and that I was inspecting what I expected this time and not getting fooled, right? And then after that is when we really started to kind of define what Capital Growth Partners was going to be about, and really understanding the niche behind it, right? I've worked with companies like NASCAR. I've worked with small businesses that are under $500,000 a year, right? And so I wanted to figure out who exactly I wanted to work with, and that's when we kind of landed on, I really wanted to work with business owners that were either starting up and needed help just moving, and I wanted to work with business owners that had already started but really were having a tough time, and understanding and helping them how to turn that around. Because I have been there. I've been in the middle of COVID, not understanding. We lost half 40% of our clients, not knowing what we were going to do. Right. So, and it would have been nice to have somebody that said, "Hey, it's okay. Here's the formula that we're going to use to get back to where we need to be." So that's really what kind of pushed us into starting to consult.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that formula as we sort of wrap up this episode, but I have
Yeah.
to. I'm a huge NASCAR fan. What did you do with NASCAR, and how does one get one of those contracts? NASCAR, if you're listening, I would love to work with you. I think that'd be awesome. So I'm curious, what'd you do there?
Yeah, definitely. So, a subsidy of NASCAR. You've heard of Motor Speedway before?
Yeah.
So we worked with a bunch of different locations. One thing, and I won't go too down this rabbit hole, but on the marketing side is I'm a big believer in knowing who you're marketing to before you just start firing off leads. You can imagine a company like NASCAR has, multi-million dollar budgets. They're not really shy on spending money against marketing, but what we found is that they were spending money in the wrong areas. Particularly around COVID, they were still spending money towards the normal NASCAR guy that just wanted to go with a bunch of his friends and get kind of messed up and have a good time, when actually their target market shifted a little bit during COVID to learning, who it was. It was a mom, actually. It was somebody that wanted to then bring their family to the track, and those ads weren't resonating with moms, right? And so
Yeah.
that's ultimately what we decided to help them with, and then push forward on. And we just helped them with their advertising. We did all digital stuff. So
I love it. Well, NASCAR, I can't help you with advertising, but definitely with operations. So call me. All jokes aside, though, I want to hear this. Let me hear your strategy, and then we'll give people a place to go contact you, reach out to you, and learn more about the strategy. But give me sort of the high level and summary. If you're going to go work with somebody, work with an organization, what's sort of the blueprint that you like to follow, start to finish?
Sure. Yeah, we call it our small business turnaround blueprint. So whether you're turning around, or frankly, if you're launching, it's going to work for you. There's four things. Number one is going to be people, right? So making sure you have the right people in place to help you be successful. So we talked a little bit about that earlier. Number two is systems and processes. You'd be surprised, Brandon, how many business owners I talk to about, hey, once a lead comes in, what happens? And they stare at me like with a blank face, right? And so
unfortunately, I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't. And so we help them with systems and processes and building that out if they don't exist. Number three is quality. And what I mean by quality is, what do your customers think of your product? Because I can help you with all these other things that I'm talking about, but if your product sucks, nobody's going to want to buy it. And I know that sounds blunt and mean, but it's the reality. And so we look at the product and the quality of the product and help them with that, and turn that around. The last thing is marketing. And you got to do, in my opinion, you got to do all three of these other things before you move into marketing. Because what you don't want to do is market something that sucks. And so we talk about marketing, we move into the digital sector. If you're running a small business nowadays without any digital marketing, man, if you're successful, I'm going to be really surprised, because I just haven't seen it. So we help with the digital side, making sure that we're targeting the right people, that we're not wasting money. Because I think every small business owner out there knows that digital marketing is expensive. You're up against all these big guys. July 4th just happened. Your cost per lead probably went up tenfold during that time, right? And so we help a little bit with that. And I also kind of bring the reality home when it comes to budgets, right? I've talked to a ton of small business owners that they want 100, 150, 200 leads on a budget of, $5 per day. And sometimes that's just not realistic depending on the market you're in. So we help with that and kind of set expectations. But you do all four of those things, in my experience, you can be very successful in business. So those are our blueprints.
I like it. Yeah, I like how you're not a marketing bro too, because they always say, market first, sell it, and then fix it. Like, no, please don't do that. Go the way Brandon just said. Make it right, and then market it and sell it.
Exactly. That'll just hurt your brand and hurt your recognition, man. I wouldn't advise that.
Hard pass for me as well. I love it. Well, this is awesome. So if someone's listening, they're starting up, or they're trying to pivot, turn around, do something, a change in their business, where should they go to connect with you, learn more about you?
Totally. Yeah, they just need to go to growsmartercgp.com. And then on that website, there'll be a form they can fill out. They'll get in touch with me. I'm a very transparent, blunt individual, if you guys haven't noticed. So if I can't help you, I'll tell you. I'm not just going to take money from you. But in general, if you're a small business owner that needs to turn around their scenario, or if you're just launching and you just want to make sure that you're immediately successful, come talk to us. I think we can help.
I love it. Brandon, thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate it, Brandon.
For those of you watching, listening, wherever you are, growsmartercgp.com. It's down below in the show notes. It's also on the screen. Go click around, get the help you need to grow your business, turn it around, or launch it. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.
Another episode of Harmonious at Lunch in the books. I hope this episode made you think and you grabbed some actionable ideas to propel your business. Don't forget to like, comment your takeaways, and subscribe wherever you're listening so we can help more entrepreneurs just like you achieve harmony in your life and business. For cutting-edge tools that bring clarity to your people and processes, check out humanoff.com to download our app today. See you next time.